Guess we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, now first things first, please guys, do the questionnaire or whatever that's online about this class and about my instruction and what you thought about this class. I think 6 of you out of the whole class have done it. I don't see it till the end of next semester, so don't think, oh, he's going to change my grade. I won't. What I would also appreciate is if you guys typed in Rate My Professor and get Rate My Professor, go to Rate a Professor, Professor name, Andy R. Galloway. And Andy R. Galloway from College will show up, click on it. You can rate me. Our code is HIST 2301. And then I'll ask you, over here's the best, so this course is what you're going to do. A real gem, solid choice, fine. Anyway, put down the difficulty, and it just basically asks you questions. You get to choose 3 of these things. And then you can put on a commentary like, I really enjoyed that he did this, or he really needs to work on this. And usually it's for other students that are going to take this course. Boop, boop, boop. And here's, if you want to search for my page, so far I've got like 73 student ratings, but this course is for my history 1302 and 1301. And so y'all will be my first class of History 2301. All right. Now, let's see, let's go and do this. Basically, our exam is going to be from the lectures from the Civil War up, which I believe is lecture number 9. The exam itself is going to be on Monday, because that's when y'all are scheduled to take it. What I'm going to do, however, is have it be just like the quiz, where it's you can take it from 11 in the morning to 11:59 at night. You'll have 60 minutes to complete 20 questions. If there are like 23 questions, then those extra 3 basically are going to be extra credit. I'll go back in, just like I did with the midterm, and create a new box so you're even able to do even better than that. Okay, starting out with Civil War Texas. Familiarize yourselves with the Texas battles and campaigns. Probably the most important would be like the Battle of Sabine Pass, where we have Dick Dowling and the Davis Guards. But also know about our attempt to take over the New Mexico territory. And actually we were successful in doing that, but then our supplies got captured and destroyed. So that kind of put an end to that. And also you might want to know, just because it happened here in Texas, know about the last battle of the Civil War that was fought here in Texas well after the Civil War was already done. After the Civil War, we get into Reconstruction, Texas. Most important about that is familiarize yourself with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. And an easy way to remember what each of those did is remember free men vote. The 13th Amendment ended slavery. 14th Amendment made them citizens of the United States. And the 15th Amendment gave them the right to vote. Also, know who the Republican governor during Reconstruction was. Why is that so important? Because Texas doesn't have another Republican governor for almost 100 years. Okay? And a lot of people He's a very controversial figure in Texas history. Next, we start going into from Reconstruction to Reform and the Age of Reform. You know, there's lots of changes going on. We have like prohibition, women's rights, everything like that. Because I'm a union guy, you should familiarize yourself with the Knights of Labor. Remember, that's the first union that's actually here in Texas. It accepted all working class people. Basically, it even accepted women and African Americans. Anybody. You just had to be older than 16 and be hardworking and industrious and believe in God. Also, because I love talking about the farmers, we talked about the Grange, but during this period, more important is the Farmers Alliance. And one of the things that the Farmers Alliance did was they proposed a sub-treasury plan. And according to this plan, basically the government would store farmers' crops and offer low-interest loans to farmers while they're holding their crops, kind of as a collateral. But basically that would be a way for the farmers to circumvent the low prices that brokers might give them. Well, then the Farmers Alliance starts to get political, and we have the populists rise up. And again, if we're talking about farmers here in Texas, the most important crop grown was cotton for several decades. Know who would most likely be a member of the People's Party? You know, there weren't a lot of professionals in that group. It didn't have a lot of lawyers. It didn't have a lot of executives or merchants. Basically, we're talking about small farmers and laborers, craftsmen. And because they had some political successes in the election of 1892, as well as the congressional elections of 1894, know who they chose to be their presidential candidate in 1896? He was a big-time orator, Baptist moralist. Was said to be the lion in The Wizard of Oz. In the Progressive era in World War I, know what disenfranchisement means, and basically how the primary system in Texas disenfranchised some. and all the political figures that we had know about good old Farmer Jim Ferguson, who was James Ferguson? Basically, the reason why he earned the nickname Farmer is because he really fought to limit the amount of rent that sharecroppers or tenant farmers had to pay their landlords. So a lot of East Texas sharecroppers really liked him. Refresh over like the big industries that are going on here in Texas during that time before World War I. You know, we're hugely busy expanding the railroads and other things. All right, by the time we get to lecture 14, America, Texas, and the world, a lot of what's going on there is the rise of the 1920s Ku Klux Klan. Know who would be most likely to join? The Klan? Also, this new Klan during the 1920s, really focuses on 100% Americanism. That was really pushed by the Atlanta advertising house of Edward Clark and Elizabeth Tyler. Know what their promotional strategies did for the Ku Klux Klan? And even though the Klan was really popular, in 1920, they were busy getting political guys elected, everything like that. By 1924, especially with the election of Miriam Ferguson, or Ma Ferguson, who allowed Farmer Jim Ferguson to do most of the work behind the scenes. Know what happened to the Ku Klux Klan? And a lot of that also was thanks to the fact that she had Dan Moody working underneath her, who would later continue on to become Texas's youngest governor. But know what happened to the Ku Klux Klan underneath Ma Ferguson and Dan Moody's battle against them? Well, everything's great till it's not great. We have the Great Depression and the New Deal. Now guys, the Great Depression hit Texas hard. I could ask you a ton of questions about the alphabet soup programs you know, like the PWA, the ERA, the NRA. You know, they did stuff like they're the guys that built the tower at UT Austin. They built the trail and park system down in White Rock Lake. They installed a lot of sidewalks around. I could ask you about all that stuff, but what you should probably focus on is, at the end of the day, was the New Deal effective? I mean, it took us 10 years. By 1939, we had finally reached the point economically we were at in 1929. But it plunged the government into debt, and it really didn't generate economic recovery. Well, if the New Deal didn't give us our economic recovery, what did? Well, that's World War II. Boom. Oh, I don't have that one listed here. That's because it's right down there. In World War II in Texas, we did a lot. Basically, we had the 8-inch and the 10-inch that carried oil, our oil, to the pipelines that carried them up to New York City. Know about some of the heroes that Texas created. And Texas created, my God, so many heroes, okay? But if there's a name you probably should not forget, and you're from Texas, know about Audie Murphy. The guy who was the star of To Hell and Back. A deal that he wrote and lived. He's the most decorated combat soldier of World War II. Also, a unique and a cool thing to Texas is that we had a lot of training bases for the WASPs. Now, basically, these were the Women Air Force Service pilots. Know what the WASPs did during World War II. Even though they didn't see combat, know what they did. Then we kind of skip over the threshold of the modern. For the turbulent decade, know about Lyndon Baines Johnson, know about what he did right before he was vice president. And as a congressman, basically Lyndon LBJ is unrivaled. Know about his Great Society. Included things like the War on Poverty, Medicaid, Medicare, huge advances in civil rights, educational programs. Basically services designed to give opportunity to those who might be on the economic fringes. And then skip over a transitional decade, and I think we talked about Ann Richards in our last lecture. Know about Ann Richards. Not only was she a female governor, she's very popular here in Texas. And underneath her, a lot of people were talking about Texas maybe getting an income tax. But instead of Texas doing that, it was underneath her leadership that we began something else that's still around today. You can see it in every convenience store. Have a run for your money. It's all a numbers game, a Ponzi scheme. Self-taxation. Hey in the hey, hey. And that is that. Huzzah!